This is good. Now we are live. Hi. So let's talk about certification. This is Gernot, and I have my dear colleague Monika with me, and we want to talk about certifications because many people are talking about certifications, and we are really helping people for certifications. Usually at the end of the training, some people want to get certified, and so we talk a little bit about that. But to really get through certifications, and Monika has to tell something about that, it's not so easy. And so we have a few tips for that. And the idea was that we have smaller sessions, half an hour or so. And so we split it up into a few sessions. And we will have this session which is overview and an interview. Why an interview? Because very good TED talk from Daniel Gilbert. It's about the surprising signs of happiness. And he was talking about how people deal with life catastrophes and so on. And he says, we are forgetting the bad things. And we do not really know what has happened because in our mind, we put it so together that it fits us. So it's surprising that a man who's in a wheelchair has the same level as happiness as a guy who won $1 million in the lottery. So much says Daniel Gilbert. It's not only ideas worth spreading, it's worth watching. And he says, if you really want to know what a situation is about, you have to ask someone who has had the situation not so long ago. And this is Monika. And so we will talk about what has happened during the preparation and so on. Then maybe next week we will speak about the learning basics. And this is not about VPCs and storage and so on. This is about how you learn, because there are a few misconceptions in technical learning, especially if school is a few years away. And then I will talk about mind maps, and this is especially good for recreation. This is original mind map from my preparation for, I think it was the DevOps. And I will teach you how to do these mind maps and to use them effectively. And then the problem is not that we have too less resources. It's like a maze background, too many resources. So in the third session, we will talk about the online resources. And the fourth session, we will talk about multiple choice strategy. And during the whole course or sessions, or what do you say, we will have a big picture. And this is here in Excalibur. We will start with the exam guide. And there are a few example questions. And it's a good thing to start with an AWS training. This is just 3 days. And if we talk about the Certified Solution Architect Associate, AWS says you should have 1 year of experience. Do we have that? But at least you should, after you have done the training, something about 3 months of preparations. And there's so much to see, to learn and repeat. So episode 1, learning basics, repeat, reproduce mind maps, and then to find a way through the maze, online resources, white papers, and so on. And if you succeeded in learning enough, you will have a few sample exams, sample questions, and then to prepare you really for the exam, the multiple choice strategy. So much from my side. And now, Monika, it's up to you to tell us a little bit about how was your learning and how was your certification experience?
Yes, I started learning for AWS certification. It was in December when I started actually working also in this branch, because I actually did something else before, so this was a very new start for me. And I started actually, as you said already, with training on AWS for 4 days, I think it was for me. I think
Yeah,
this
the 4 days is a hard path.
is the hard part.
The technical essential. After that, you have a head like that, and then the architect.
Ah,
Which is
yes, you're
quite good.
right. The first day was technical essentials. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yes, for me it was very overwhelming, because this training is kind of a presentation of all the services you need for the solutions architect associate. So it was good to see it all, but I don't know what I remembered afterwards, actually. But yes, as I told you, for me, everything was new in this branch. So maybe for people who already worked with some topics, for them it might be easier. Yes, I heard about people who were in AWS training and wrote the exam 1 week after. So this is also possible for people with a big brain.
Yes, that's the first thing I want to say. You shouldn't do that. There are some. We have one. I will just call him Dr. Felix. A guy who's really able to learn and cram things into the brain, but that's not long lasting. So it really is. It's a minimum to study for 3 months. AWS says, okay, 1 year practical experience, and it's not good just to collect the certifications, because it should have worth something, and that is, take your time to really prepare. And if you prepare effectively, as we will talk about in the next sessions, it is not so hard. It's manageable. Okay, so it was overwhelming in the beginning.
Yes, for me, yes. But then afterwards, I started also watching the A Cloud Guru videos, which also summed up every theme again. And then this was my second part of learning. But I did it differently, like some other people, because some of my colleagues who also started preparing for the exam and learning, they were watching the videos in a row. And me, for example, I watched them, I think, for 1 month, and I focused. For example, the video starts with S3. So I watched the theme about S3, and then I took other resources like the cheat sheets from Dojo, or the FAQs from AWS, also the white papers, which I think you will mention later on as well, to just learn the specific theme. And then I would go on with the next theme, like EC2 instances and so on. Yeah.
And this is one main part of the next session. It's really, 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 really ineffective to watch the whole thing. Some people say, I'm a different learner. No, we have all the same brain, most of the people, but you are not the one, because, as you say in the beginning, it's overwhelming, it's too much. And so it's better to study one thing at a time and to repeat it. And we will talk about repeating also in the next session. So this was the start, that you do the video course. And what after that? So what was your plan? How did you prepare for the certification and so on?
Yes, and while I was watching the videos as well over the specific topics, I had some index cards as well. You can get them online. And I wrote down, I wrote down a question. For example, how can you encrypt an S3 bucket or objects in your S3 bucket? What are the possibilities? I would wrote down the question and the answer, and then I would learn the cards afterwards. one by one, because at the end I think I had 120 cards, which isn't that much, I would say, because you can't cover all the topics by writing them down. It's really hard. And yes, this was my next step to learn it like this. And also reading a lot and doing the labs was also a part of learning. Also, but this was also a mistake by my mistake, I think, just to click the labs, because you have the, they tell you what to do. Yeah.
Two topics, if I may step in. The first thing is, many people do it wrong. They just learn and think they have it in their mind. But what you have done is really great, because you have to practice repetition, so that you just not put stuff in your brain, but you manage to put it out again, to grab it out again. And the other thing is also right, that it was wrong. If you are doing labs, if you are in the training, you don't have enough time. You just click the labs through. But you cannot memorize everything, because it's too much. And so with the labs and with the sample questions, you have to understand each sample question 100%. And we have one colleague, I call him the brain. He has all the certifications. And in the beginning, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we were sometimes discussing one question half an hour, because it's like a good song. You see the question and you think, okay, nice. And then you repeat it again. Then you say, oh, okay, with this single word, they meant cost effective. So it's the other storage type. And so you really have to understand and dig deep to really get to know, because not the exact questions you study will come into the exam. There will be different questions.
Yes. Yeah.
So you were doing labs for preparation. Where did you do that labs, and how do you do that?
You could prepare with the labs like on AWS Guru. There are some practical guides, and also from the training I got some labs as well. From the AWS training you get afterwards, you get some labs, and this was how I used the labs to build AWS infrastructure. But yes, I totally agree that you cannot learn it by just doing it once, and that you have to repeat it. And yes, that the theme is expanding from one service to another service, so you can't really learn them separately. And this is the problem with many of the videos. When I watch the videos, I don't know if I can say this, but if the guy in the AWS Guru video tells me that this is the ultimate preparation for the exam, and if you watch all this you will pass the exam. No, it's not true, not with just watching the videos, because there are so many more questions in the exam that are not covered by the videos you do online, because you really have to dig deeper in the themes. And yes, maybe talk also, like you said, talk with other people about this. For me, it was really important to ask some other people how they experience some situations, or how would they solve the problem, or how would they build their infrastructure, and so on. Yes.
Yeah, this is because you have to build your own mental model, and that's a problem with the video course when the guy says, okay, watch this, and you know everything. Okay, thinks about everything, but he cannot say everything. And so a video course is good to have a train of thought, but you have to look left and right and repeat it afterwards. And another thing is that some colleagues like this guy, some colleagues like that guy. And so it's not only a cloud guru. We will look at a few other resources where colleagues have studied, and we will deprecate some resources like Question King, because they are selling just questions and answers. And Uwe one time went through all these questions and found many errors. And this is because there are so many services and so many knowledge that the company who makes videos really must be saying, okay, we are doing AWS and we are spending much effort to do it right. And I think there's only 2 or 3, maybe 4 resources which are really doing it right. And a Cloud Guru and Linux Academy are gone together now. So 1 resource less, because it's the same. So from the learning phase, what would you say which was helping you and what was not so great doing it, if you look back? So, technical problems. No, here we are again. So, Monika skipped, but I think she will reconnect very shortly. And so I can take the time just to show you some of the big picture what I was talking about. And I will again share my screen. Okay. I have to. So hopefully, okay. Yeah, I'm there. Okay. This is a big picture again. And I'm switching to the topics what Monika was talking about. Oh, and she's back again. Okay, trying to reconnect. The first thing was the training, not only the architecting, but also the technical essential. The technical essential is just 1-day training, and it's really so much stuff that it's if it's alone, it's not worth it. Okay, you have a bad internet connection. Okay,
I normally have always good internet connection, but I thought it was you, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Obviously,
okay.
I have hotspot now. This should work.
Okay, I was just talking 1 minute about finding the resources in the big picture. This was the architecture training. Then you did guided labs or free labs, and you need to have a sandbox account in that. And oh, Maurice, I noticed that teaching the areas covered by the exam helped me study for them, even if it's just talking to myself, just forcing myself to verbalize it. It explains the concepts. I learned many things about them and structure them in a way that sticks with me. Yes, Maurice, that's right. And that is a recreation of things. If you have these index cards and say to yourself, and just stop the image. If you have index cards and look at them and say to yourself, I know that. I know the answer. No, this is not the right way. You have to recreate it. You have to say it. You have to verbalize it loud, and then you really know. And we will talk about methodology where you cannot cheat yourself for that. So, Monika, let's take the, what is Faden wieder aufnehmen? So we're talking about which resources were helpful and which resources were not so helpful. And Maurice had said, okay, verbalizing, maybe just talking to yourself. And do you know the rubber duck trick? She freezed again. Okay, some people just have a rubber duck on the desktop and they are talking with the duck. rub-a-dub debugging.
No, me,
Yes.
yeah, no.
Okay. So, back online.
Yes. What, do you hear me?
Yes, and DevOps says talking to your colleagues is a great way when learning. If you talk those concepts, you for sure you understood them. And that was I was talking about. We took example questions and then talk about, okay, how do you understand it? Tell it to me, explain it to other people. So next try, Monika. So what was helpful from the resources and from the methods?
I think at the end, I think I forced myself a bit. What I didn't say is I had my own deadline when I want to do the exam. This was kind like 2 months after I started with the exam preparation. So at the end of January, I had my deadline, and I think
And
10 days before.
did you book the exam up front, or did you book it at the end of the deadline?
At the end of the deadline.
That's better,
Actually,
because you
yes.
never know how much time you have.
Yeah. Yes. And actually, you feel if you feel prepared or not, because yes, 10 days before the exam was, I downloaded or I bought the WizLabs questions,
Yeah,
which I think is the best way to learn for the exam, to really, as a
definitely.
bit of kind of what Maurice said, repeating it and also talking to yourself, but really repeating them by answering questions. And this is the best way you can learn, because then you can really check if you understood it or not, and can explain to yourself if this is what you are reading is right or not. And at the end, I think you would feel that which question is right or which question is wrong. But I just bought it like 10 days before, and I saw that I didn't pass every exam. And although that, I wrote the exam, and what I didn't mention yet is that I didn't pass the first exam. This, yes, kind of takes what you said in the introduction. I failed, but I learned a lot from this. And yes, I had it again, and I think I took 2 months more then to prepare again for this exam, and I felt so differently by the second exam. I felt so prepared. I could answer almost every question, of course not everything, because it's still a lot of work and you can't know everything in AWS. This is the thing that people must know. You never stop learning, and no matter how long you work with AWS, because there are so many services. Yes, but this is with labs. And also after I failed the exam, I was in a project with a colleague. With my boss, he took me to a POC project where I had to build infrastructure. And this was the first time I really had to build something. And this was the best experience, and to really, yes, to really get it into my brain how it works.
This is really helpful for other people that you failed the first time.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit? How did you feel just before the first exam and after that? And then I tell you how I feel each and every time, and I think it's the same.
Yeah, okay, yeah. The first time I was really excited, but also unsure if I passed the exam. I was like, is it enough what I did already to pass the exam? And I think it was one question that missed to pass the exam. But this is not also the aim you want to have for the certification, because after the second certification, I felt a little bit more secure, and I knew I would pass the exam.
What was your
The
second
same.
certification? Okay, the
2
second
months
time,
after.
yeah.
2 months after, in April. Yeah. Yes, and this time I
So,
felt really good. Still exciting, but yes. Yeah.
so you would say you have to feel good to start the exam, and if you're a little bit unsure, just give a few weeks extra.
Yes, a good indicator is actually, for me, it was to do the WIS Labs exam again and to pass every exam by minimum 85 or 80% or even more. This really helps to see, okay, can I answer every
Yeah.
question and do I really understand what's behind it? And then you can see if this is a good indicator, I think.
And the main point is for the indicator, for the exam, you need about 70%, but for an example exam, you must aim for about 90%, because one thing we recommend is preparing for the exam that you make a live role play. This is the exam. So if you practice it and are not nervous, then you're not doing it right. So you have to practice this in that way that if you doing the real exam, you think, I've done it a million times. A million times is not too much, but I've done it. And so with the practice exam and WIS Labs is great also because they explain the answers. You have to aim for a higher number. It must be about 90%. And
Yes, but
the last question in the exam, it's a special moment. First question, did you go through it all again? And what did you feel right after sending the exam?
I really took every minute I had in this exam. I really go through every question again and read it 5 times again. This is maybe not also the best way to do it, but I take time to read the questions. And yes, before clicking the button, I'm so nervous. But I don't know, do everyone knows that you get the result directly after you push the button and finish the exam?
No, the funny thing is you get an information that you pass and the score you get afterwards. But sometimes I have made 7 certifications now, and sometimes I was so nervous that I wasn't really sure what was the message. Was it yes or no or something like that?
No,
And
really.
the funny thing is, with the special exams, the SysOps and the DevOps, which each question, I'm not really sure if it's the right answer. I'm somehow sure, and I passed SysOps about 80% in the certification, but you cannot really be sure. And so I think that's a takeaway. You cannot really be sure. Did you had the special time, the extra time for non-native speakers?
Yes, I took it. Yes, yeah.
And that every non-native speaker should take it, because the exam itself, it's that's another, Maurice, you first have to rate the examination location before you get the result. Those are the most annoying questions. Maurice, what do you mean by that? You first have to rate the examination?
Yes,
okay. You have the last question, say okay, and then they say,
that's
okay,
so annoying.
how was it? How was it?
And you just
really
like,
annoying.
I want my result. Did I pass or didn't pass? Yeah.
And then the message is somehow not so clear. I really like a red cross or a green sign. That would be great. Super annoying, just giving feedback before seeing the result. Yeah, how was I? Nervous and everything. Okay. I think we have covered most of the topics. One last question. What would or what will you do differently, and what is your next exam you're aiming at?
I'm aiming the developer exam. This is the next step. I already start watching also videos But this time on Udemy, I think the guy who has the, I think it's Marek is his last name. He explains it very well. But of course, I also already bought as well questions, exam questions. This is how I will prepare. And now I think I will talk more with my colleagues about services or things I'm struggling with to really get the answer and maybe to get more information above this one question. And yes, the developer is more about also coding, and I think this will also help.
DynamoDB. You have
yes,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
DynamoDB, learn it by heart.
Yes. Yeah, and you really have to get into doing it and not just reading or watching videos. So more practice. This is really important.
So more practice, and my advice for today would really was, don't underestimate it. Some people in the training ask, okay, I've made a 3-day training. Can I do the exam tomorrow? No.
No.
Take at least 2 or 3 months of really working with it. These are some of the hardest exams in IT business.
The thing is that most people just do it by next to working. They just don't focus on learning. So take your time.
Yeah. Take your time, focus on learning. So I appreciate really much that you talk about your experience so that we can help other people with that. Yeah, I think, do you have any more last words to add for the session? I just don't want to close it without asking.
I know you asked me or some people from in the chat.
Oh, in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Dexter19, one little addition: in order to understand a lot of services, how they work together and what are the actual use cases, I try to find solutions to a problem, usually from experienced colleagues. Yes, and I think that it was also what I understand from Monika. If you have a real problem and not just the examples are just sometimes like water. It's a little bit dull and boring. If you have a real problem, because the standard example are just one line. If you have a real problem, you get here, and then it does not work this way. So yes, Dexter got a really good point for that. Yeah. So again, thank you very much. I think people appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we will upload this to YouTube, definitely. And so, all people, DevOps Nerd, Dexter, Maurice, and so on, thanks for watching. Hope you're again with us or with me next time. And take care. Keep on building is the podcast speech all the time. But at the moment, it's just stay healthy and keep on learning. So thank you very much, Monika. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you next time.
And don't hesitate if you have questions to ask, to write us or me.
Yeah, just reach out. We're here to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a nice day. Bye.